This extract from George Orwell's Why I Write is taken from pages 2 to 3. Orwell in this essay tries to outline the reasons why writers write, citing his own experiences as examples, and ultimately boils it down to 4 main points. Orwell structures this essay in such a way that uses both language and style in tandem effectively to ultimately convey the overall message of the essay, which is why writers write. When looking at how Orwell structures this section, he divides it up into 4 main points: sheer egoism, aesthetic enthusiasm, historical impulse, and political purpose. And the specific usage of syntax and irony within these sections are the main literary features that help Orwell get his point across. When looking at examples from sheer egoism, he gets his point across through specific examples within the thing. Specifically, he states that the whole top crust of humanity, when he refers to people like scientists and artists, politicians, he puts writers within that section, and that namely is egotistical. And then he states that the minority of gifted, willful people who are determined to live their own lives to the end, and writers belong in this class. He would then state that serious writers are on the whole more vain and self-centered than journalists, and I might add that he was a journalist himself. The words here are implicitly conveying his point, which is sheer egoism, and the fact that he himself comes across with this egotistical tone is what is significant about his use of syntax and word choice in this case. The significance lies in this implicit delineation of Orwell writing in a dignified tone. However, we can also see irony within this section, because he states that the great mass of human beings are not selfish, and this transition from talking about how writers and the whole top crust of humanity is selfish to speaking and saying that great mass of human beings are not selfish is a contrast. It's ironic. His use of verbal irony here is accentuated. And then the next sentence he says that at the age of 30, the people almost abandon the sense of being individuals at all, and that they live chiefly for others. However, Orwell at the time of writing this essay was 43 years old, and he comes out as being egotistical himself, and this sentence would not be applicable to his own life, and therefore the use of irony is significant because it catches the reader's attention from the transition, as the transition helps accentuate Orwell's previous tone. The contrast helps show how writers, through their writing, are to a certain extent egotistical, and instead of just outlining why writers are egotistical through their writing, Orwell himself comes out as egotistical. And then when looking at section 3 and 4, points 3 and 4, historical impulse and political purpose, for historical impulse, the sentence there in itself is ironic, as seeing things as they are implies objectivity. And the use of irony here helps Orwell convey a previous idea in the essay, which is that no writing goes by without elements of bias accompanying that same work. And the term true fact in line 19 may be considered a paradoxical phrase, an oxymoron, and the significance of that is that it creates contrasting notions within the reader's mind. It catches their attention, and this irony helps further accentuate is further accentuated in lines 21 to 24, as he states that no book is genuinely free from political bias. This one sentence explanation alongside its irony is significant, as it may suggest that Orwell himself didn't fall under the point of why writers write, and this has like an accentuating effect on the theme of this section, as by using syntax and irony in such a way, Orwell was not only informing the readers of these points, he was also doing it himself, and thus enlightening the reader of why writers write within these 4 main points. We can also see through his use of syntax that also helps create meaning, and this can be seen in his short and choppy sentences. He himself was a journalist, and therefore his use of short and choppy sentences would not come as a surprise. He avoids the use of purple passages, and his voice comes out as being informative, as seen through lines 3 to 4, where he states in short sentences, desire to seem clever, to be talked about, to be remembered. Writers share this characteristic. And lines 12 to 15, perception of beauty, pleasure in the impact of, desire to see, desire to share. And lines 21 to 24, use of the word political, desire to push the world in a certain direction, No book is generally free from political bias. These short and choppy sentences are almost in bullet point form, and but they're written in paragraph form, and the significance of this lies in that very tone, that very informative tone that Orwell uses, as the word choice and word order are all of aid to the reader's understanding, which ultimately has an informative effect on the reader. And the reader here is comprehending Orwell's notions through his journalistically styled writing. And ultimately, Orwell comes across in this section of the essay as being both biased and egotistical, which are two notions he is trying to get across to the reader of why writers write, and this ultimately helps accentuate some of the four main points and motives behind an author's writing.